Dr. Berg back again. Today we're going to talk about why people cannot lose weight on keto. Or maybe they initially lose weight, but then it stops working. We're going to cover all the reasons why that happens. But what I want to explain is the whole picture so you can really dissect it and get the benefits of keto. And what makes keto is the lowering of the carbohydrates. Roughly it's below 50 grams of carbohydrates per day, not per meal, especially if you're trying to achieve a goal from keto, whether it's losing weight, reducing some type of chronic illness like diabetes, for example, or just getting energy, or just doing it to be healthy. It'll make sense as we go through it. The first thing I want to talk about is dirty keto. What is dirty keto? It's going low carb, but not worrying about the ingredients, okay? So if you were going to go to a fast food restaurant in McDonald's and order some food, and you can get the burger and then take out the bun. So you get a bunch of burger patties with maybe bacon. Quality's not that great, but we're omitting the carbohydrates. Here's some other products that are dirty keto. The Atkins products. Oh my gosh, this is like the worst case scenario. Here we have the Atkins Milk Chocolate Delight. It has only 2 grams of net carbs. So if you look at the total carbohydrates and you minus the fiber, that gives you what's called net carbs. And that's pretty much how people calculate the number of carbs to keep them below 50. And so they're emphasizing also 15 grams of protein, right? And 1 gram of sugar and 3 grams of fiber. So if we look at the ingredients, wow, there's a huge, long list. That's what you get right here. It's keto, but is it healthy? I would say no. And then we have the Quest bar right here. They call it a protein bar, birthday cake. Wow, look at that. Less than 1 gram of sugar. Okay, this has protein blend. We have milk protein isolates, whey protein isolates, polydextrose. This is a synthetic sugar, etc., etc., etc. I'm going to bet anything. If you consume this or this, you're going to feel bloated. For example, there's another ketogenic diet called Ideal Protein. Oh my gosh, this is not only low carb, but it's low fat as well. And very poor quality protein. It's like soy protein isolates with pretty much everything. And I've had people come in my office that use that diet for many months and they lose weight. But oh my gosh, their hair looks all dried out. Their skin looks kind of old. They don't look vibrant. They don't look healthy. So this is one reason why you might not be successful on your ketogenic diet. Number 2, lack of sleep. Do you realize that if you get 4 days in a row of poor sleep, you're going to have blood values very similar to a pre-diabetic? When you don't sleep, your cortisol level goes super high. Let's say, for example, you're on the ketogenic diet, but you're not sleeping well, and you're wondering, why am I not losing weight? Because your cortisol is way too high. Not to mention, you burn most of the fat when you're sleeping. You have the most powerful fat-burning hormone called growth hormone, and that's activated mainly when you're sleeping. So here you are on the ketogenic plan, not sleeping and not seeing results from the ketogenic plan or the exercise you're doing. So sleep is a huge piece of the puzzle. And then let's just go to number 3, stress. Now I've already talked about cortisol. Cortisol will block all benefits from the ketogenic plan. So here you are on a low sugar, low carb diet, but the sugar is coming from the liver because the cortisol hormone and other hormones are literally causing the liver to make sugar from protein, from fat. This is why even some people have to, for some reason, take prednisone, which is a synthetic cortisol, because of the mobilization of so much sugar. And you'll see too with people that get a cortisol face, cortisol causes fat to go on the love handles, in the belly, on the face, and also around the organs, okay, as visceral fat, and also inside the organs as liver fat. I want to tell you just a quick story about a patient who came in. She's trying to lose weight. She's on the ketogenic diet. She's doing everything right, but she's just like constantly stressed out to the extreme, mental stress, until a point where I said, you know what? We have to handle this stress. Go on a vacation, change your environment. So she did this vacation. She comes back. She lost a ton of weight. And she did not change her diet. In fact, she ate more food. She kept the low carb in, but she was relaxed and she had lower stress. So keeping your stress down, getting sleep will allow the ketogenic plan to work. And then let's just mention this number 4, overtraining. I've had people come in, and I'm not kidding, would work out 6 hours a day because they're desperate to lose weight, right? And still not lose weight on keto because they were overtraining, because the benefits of exercise and training occur when you're recovering and when you're sleeping. Another lady that I know lifted over, I think it was 2 or 3 million pounds at the gym over a course of a year and lost only 1 to 2 pounds. She was overtraining. I will say she wasn't sleeping too. These two tie in together. Your exercise and sleep have to be at the right ratio. Now let's talk about number 5, bile and gallbladder and liver. So your liver makes bile. The bile is something to help you break down fats. The bile comes down a tube called the bile duct, and it gets stored in the gallbladder. And so when you eat, the gallbladder contracts, and now the small intestines have this super concentrated bile to help you break down the fats. So then the pancreas can release enzymes to take it to the next level. So now the fat is at the very tiniest level, so you can start pulling in fat-soluble vitamins, omega-3 fats, and all the benefits that you can get from fat. But if your liver is fatty, your thyroid, it doesn't get activated if there's a problem with the liver. We need healthy bile and a healthy gallbladder and a healthy liver for the thyroid to work. And so many people are trying to fix the thyroid, but really the problem is the liver. So I'm just pointing it out because if you're trying to lose weight or you're trying to do this and you have a fatty liver or there's some problem with your bile or your gallbladder, going on a ketogenic diet might not help you. Everything's going to kind of get jammed up down here, and you're going to get like bloating, and then the pressure will back up in the liver and cause discomfort on the back part of your upper trap through here, or even that refers down to the right arm. And you're wondering, what is going on? I thought the ketogenic diet was supposed to be healthy. Let's talk about fat for a second, because you can definitely overdo it. If you're eating 3 meals a day and eating cookies, you're not going to lose any weight, because yes, you may be burning fat, but you're burning the dietary fat. I always pair the ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting at the same time, because if you're not eating, you're going to lower insulin, and then that's going to allow you to go into ketosis. So getting on the ketogenic plan without intermittent fasting, instead you are snacking on fat, oh my gosh, you're not going to see results. So it's very important to pair the frequency of meals. Cut out your snacks and then cut out your breakfast. What you should notice is your hunger is going to go down. You're no longer going to crave the wrong things. This means you're in ketosis, but it doesn't mean you're burning fat. When you start doing this, only eat when you're hungry, and don't eat if you're not hungry. Don't eat out of habit, because you actually are eating your own fat between the meals. Initially, I recommend higher fat, but as you get into fat burning and you can actually go from one meal to the next more comfortably, you might want to lower the amount of dietary fat. And I'm not saying go low fat. I'm just saying don't add extra fat like the MCT oil and all the different desserts that are out there that you can make as recipes with tons of butter. And number 6, we've mentioned about the thyroid. The thyroid is responsible for a lot of your metabolism, health, and energy. You need the liver for a good thyroid, but also there's some key nutrients that allow you to convert the inactive T4 to the active T3. Iodine, selenium, and zinc. And the reason I'm bringing this up is if your thyroid is hypo, it's not working for some reason, and you go on the ketogenic diet and you don't see weight loss, well, maybe you need to work on the thyroid. Okay, let's go to number 7, gut microbes. One of the big side effects when someone takes an antibiotic, a lot of times they'll gain weight after that. So that's a real common side effect, weight gain after an antibiotic. So the microbes that you have in your gut are so important in helping you with your metabolism, weight loss, and many other things. Even think about in the animal industry, one of the ways they fatten up chickens and cattle is they give them antibiotics. There's a huge connection between gut microbes and your weight. And so if there's a problem in your gut and you go on keto and you don't lose weight, you need to fix the gut microbes. There's also a really great microbe. It's called L. reuteri. I've done some videos on this. You can make this cultured yogurt mixture with L. reuteri. It helps a lot of people lose weight because you're reestablishing a very key microbe that is usually missing in most people, especially if they have a history of antibiotics. What about number 8? The sun and vitamin D. If you notice, people lose more weight and they're less depressed in the summer, and then in the winter it might be harder to lose weight because vitamin D is one of the most important vitamins to prevent against insulin resistance. It's highly connected and associated to diabetes. If you're low in vitamin D, you will go very quickly from insulin resistance to prediabetes to diabetes. But if you have enough vitamin D, it can potentially protect you. But the sun gives you additional things. The sun gives you an increase of melatonin. If you make more melatonin in the cells, not only are you going to sleep better, you're going to have a more powerful antioxidant because that's another function of melatonin. Also, serotonin goes up. So your mood's going to go up. You're going to be less depressed. And so let's say, for example, you go on the ketogenic diet, but you get no sun and you wonder, why aren't I losing weight? Why aren't I getting rid of my diseases, my diabetes? Again, keto is one piece of the puzzle. What I'm saying is a lot of these things are going to prevent keto from working. Okay, let's talk about number 9, atrophy. It's a loss of muscle. Muscle helps you use the fat and use the stored sugar in your body as fuel. And so this whole muscle thing is very, very important. And the more atrophy that you have, the less the keto is going to work, especially if you're focused on weight loss. A much better indicator to know that keto is working is that, oh wow, I'm getting stronger. So in other words, if you have that problem, you are not going to see weight loss right away. What you will see is your legs getting stronger, which is good, your appetite going down. That means it's working, because the worst thing in the world is if you start on a ketogenic diet and you're doing exercise and you're including all these things, but you're not losing weight, you thinking it's not working, and then you give up. When it was working, you just have to give it more time. And sometimes it takes months to really achieve what you want to achieve, especially if you're trying to regrow the muscles back. And that brings me to number 10, defining what normal is. And let's just take weight loss because that's the main thing people do keto for. The initial weight loss is going to be water weight, between 1 pound and 11 pounds in that first week, just by going on low carb, because carbs tend to retain a lot of fluid. What about after you got rid of all the excess fluid? Then how much, hypothetically, can you lose? Typically, people will tell you you can lose about 2 pounds a week, but that's for a really healthy younger person. Sometimes it'll be no weight loss because you're building up muscle. It's atrophy. It's atrophy that you're trying to address, and you have to fix that first. So I think the best things to focus on when you do this is getting rid of the appetite, okay? Being able to go from one meal to the next without hunger. That means it's working. And also feeling stronger, having more energy, having a better mood. Okay, I've already touched on this. Frequent meals. This is like so important. If you're stuck on keto because you're doing low carb, the biggest, most fruitful thing you could do is to fast longer. Who says you need to eat every single day? There was times where we didn't eat 3 meals a day or even once a day. It's very healthy to match the habits and routines from our ancient ancestors. So doing longer fast is going to be the secret to achieving the benefits from a low carb diet. All right, I just want to mention cheat day. I don't know whoever came up with this, but a lot of times people say, well, when can I have a cheat day? And some people will just do a cheat day like every 3rd day. Oh my gosh. It takes a few days to get into ketosis, but it takes a few minutes to bump you out of ketosis. So if you're doing a cheat day every other day or every 3rd day, you're not going to see any results. If you want the full benefit of keto, just don't do a cheat day. Okay, I've already talked about the fat. Keto is dangerous. You'll probably hear this on the news all the time. I will guarantee every single study they found keto doesn't work. If you actually read the study, it's either an observational study based on questionnaires, which is just all BS. It doesn't prove anything. Or it's going to be a keto-like diet. Keto and keto-like are not the same at all. They're completely different. So it was a completely invalid study because they were feeding someone way too many carbs, which invalidated the ketogenic diet, because ketogenic diet, you're only doing like 5% carbs. And so they will say, oh, keto will help you for the short term, but we don't know what happens long term. So they put a little doubt in there, and then people get discouraged. I want to mention this one thing right here, no sugars. So when you're reading labels, and it says, oh, no sugar, but the carbs are still high, realize that you're going to have starch in there. Those starches are actually sugar. Okay, it's hidden sugar on a chain. So even though it doesn't say sugar, it still has sugar, but it's just not labeled as sugar. What this is really about is fixing something called metabolic inflexibility. The cells are in an environment with a lot of fuel, but they can't use it. That is the common thing in most chronic disease because the body has created something called insulin resistance. It's protecting you against this junk food. But at the same time, you're starving the body of glucose. There's another way of delivering food into that tissue, into your brain cells, deep inside the body. And that other way is through ketosis, because ketones can bypass the damage of the cell that has a problem with its metabolism and get direct fuel right into that cell. And this is why it's so healing and so important, and why you can actually reverse diabetes within 10 weeks. To really get the details on how to do the healthy version of the ketogenic diet with intermittent fasting, I put this video up right here. Check it out right now.